finding your passion and finding your purpose is the biggest and is the most difficult thing.
If you don't have a strong why, you're always going to have a shaky foundation.
There is nothing to fear, just you dive in. Even though you don't know swimming, you just dive in, then you will learn.
How important is having a healthy support system around you?
If Prime Minister of India can do so much and why I cannot manage this much, there is no defined age line like when you should start doing something new.
I have to work this many hours, I have to hire this many people, I have to reach $1 million. No, you can just start simple. I have to learn the skill. Anyone can start a podcast, but starting one that creates a movement, lets you find your passion, and in the same time builds a sense of community, that's a whole different game. Today, we are joined by no other than Madhusmita Nayak, a special friend of mine, a client of Amato Strategies, and the host and founder of the Re-Engineered Club. The Re-Engineered Club started out as a podcast, but then evolved into a full-on storytelling platform with masterclasses and a full-on global impact. Whether you're a coach, entrepreneur, or someone who just wants to get started with a podcast or a storytelling platform, this episode is for you. Now, this episode is going to be your guide on how to do it right and how to get started and all the pros and cons that come with doing it. Now, let's get started. Welcome, Madhu.
Thank you so much for the lovely introductions and those. I don't know how much I have done it perfectly because I don't believe that anything we start begins with perfection. But yes, I have a very, very good intention why I started this podcast.
Oh, that's amazing. Honestly, I've seen your podcast. It's doing a great job at making people feel seen. And this is actually like building up to our next question. What is it about storytelling that makes people feel seen, heard, and in the same time, they can feel like it's transformative for them?
See, everyone remembers stories. I think I'm 40 plus and I still remember what my grandmom had told me 30 years back. So, storytelling is very emotional and it's quite relatable. People don't remember facts, people don't remember statements, but definitely people do remember stories. So, that is why the basic reason of storytelling is like it's emotional, it creates movement, and it inspires people. So, that's a reason storytelling is one of the beautiful platform where you can make emotions work for you than facts, data. Yes, they are also equally important, and being a strategist, I equally prioritize that data and statistics really matters. But why storytelling? It's a beautiful platform or it's a beautiful channel to make it more relatable and to make it more emotional and make people do things.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. And when exactly did you realize that your podcast like wasn't just content, it was like a platform for change where you really want to bring change to happen?
See, starting podcast itself, which I started, I think, in January 2024. When I started, I myself was experimenting, like, if this podcast can bring real, authentic stories. So that was my basic intention because my background is completely out of, basically, I'm an engineer and I'm a senior strategy manager, but no background of media or mass communication. But I generally love to interact with people and I love to hear stories and I like to interact with people and get their stories heard. So that was my basic intention, and I thought that why not to bring a platform where people come and people share their stories, and if even one person is getting inspired, then that's making a difference in my own way. So that's the reason I started the Reengineered podcast. And why Reengineered podcast, like why the Reengineered theme was selected or it was my passion, is because being an engineer, and we have been taught like, okay, we keep doing things, but we are also taught during our engineering that to re-engineer or to reverse engineer. So to see if something is not working, if a machine is not working, if a circuit is not working, then how you redo the arrangement to make it work. So that's a beauty of engineering, like at least to make things work. So that is one concept that also applies to our life too. So we as individuals, including me, we always try to do more, achieve more, but we often forget to just look back on what we have achieved and see like how we can make use of what we have achieved and to rewire it, to replace it, like place it in at the right positions to see that what better we can make it out of what we have learned. Even though you are 30, 40, when you ask like what is your biggest achievement, people take a time to think and come up with answer. But if you ask someone what you have not achieved, they have a list of things. But believe me, you are 30 or 32 or maybe 25, but still at that particular age you might have achieved something which you can make it useful for whatever, for your future, and also making a difference in others life. So that's how the concept of reengineering actually I came up with. And I thought that yes, to bring guests who have actually re-engineered their career, their profession, and they have changed because they thought that that's the purpose that they are looking for, and they found their purpose and they did it very strategically. It's not like, it's very beautiful to say that follow passion, but it's very difficult. So I have got guests who have real time experience and who have real success stories on how they have re-engineered their life, and not only life, their lifestyle and their relationship, to make their life much better, much purposeful, and making an impact.
You're absolutely right about this, and especially like the point where you said that if you ask someone what have they achieved in their life, they're probably going to take a moment to think about it and maybe sometimes not even say anything positive. But if you ask them like, all right, what have you not achieved in your life? And then they have a whole list of their insecurities and what went wrong. And it's extremely beautiful part that we do need to reflect more on that.
True, very true.
All right, so now I actually want to ask you something. How does storytelling help brands, creators, or basically communities who are looking to grow faster and at the same time they want to connect with their audience in a more authentic way?
See, storytelling is the platform, as I already told, like, it builds on your emotions. Like, nothing works better than emotions, right? Like, we can say anything, but if you hit the emotions, if you know the pain points, and you make it more relatable, and that's how things work out. You People don't buy products, people buy emotions, and people see that, okay, what is the product offering, and they make it relatable if that is something that is required. We have so many brands where we have seen that, okay, they don't sell product, but they sell their emotions, right? And they make it more relatable. So this is something like, I must say that brands also have stories, so they sell their stories and they understand customers pain points and they build on that. But very, very important is that your product needs to be nice. So, and your product needs to be more, when I say nice, it means that it should be real, it should be authentic. The same lies with person also. So whenever you are doing a very good packaging, you have beautiful stories to share, but actually you are not practicing your values in daily life, that doesn't make sense. So it's so important, like whenever you are doing a storytelling, you need to understand that, are these actually aligned with your inner values, your family values? Then it makes sense, and then people can relate it more, and that's how you become more authentic. And then once people relate that, okay, then it goes. So I think even brands, even products, even services, even now these days consultancies and consultancy services, and in maybe your marketing also, it
Yeah.
all starts with understanding what is the requirement and making it more authentic and real and raw too.
Exactly. I think most successful businesses started out by them realizing a pain point that is happening in a specific market, and then they started to build a solution for it. So the thing is, once you have the solution, automatically everything else is going to be beautifully smooth and it will go easier for you to connect with the right audience and the right customers for you. So great point you actually added over here.
Yeah, and these days I think everyone knows the problem and everyone knows the solution too.
Yeah.
Like whenever I like, we do SWOT analysis in our company, like for any organization on the strategy, we all know, when we bring all stakeholders together, we all know what our strengths are, we all know what our weaknesses are, and maybe all of them doesn't know, or everyone shouldn't know what are the opportunities or threats, but everyone knows their own strengths and own weakness. But they need a narrative to combine all of this to come out who you are exactly, and then capitalize on your strengths and work upon your weaknesses. So the same is relatable to every individual as we relate to a company, and the same thing also related to each and every individual in their life. Doesn't matter in what stage of life they are, but I must say that everyone should do SWOT analysis of their own, as an individual to find out exactly their passion, their purpose, and what exactly they want to do in their life.
Honestly, this is really beautiful. Like, yes, do a SWOT analysis. It's not just about your business or your brand, but do it for yourself. Understand your own weaknesses and your strength. And this is really how you grow. We're not always perfect. We're not like always great at everything. And that's okay. That's what makes us human in the end of the day. But in the same time, with us reflecting on our weaknesses, we're always going to have a motivation to work towards something more. For example, I think you know this already about me. I had a major stage fright. And the thing is, I just kept on practicing, whether it's in front of the camera or whether it's in front of people, to be able to get over it. And then eventually I was able to host a corporate event. So the thing is, like, literally going step by step in that way. If I never reflected on me being weak or me feeling, scared to speak in public, probably I would have never been able to reach to that stage of my life as well. So yeah, that's what analysis part, even for yourself, is really, really important.
Yeah, and today I attended a conference where one of the speaker was telling it there is only one mantra of success: do, practice, do, practice, do, practice. That's the only thing. So
Yeah.
you learn, you practice, you learn, you practice, you learn, you practice, and that's the only mantra of success. And then you keep doing it to grow to the next level, and then you keep doing that continuously till the time you reach your goal.
Exactly. 100%. And now, actually, like, this is one of the most commonly asked questions, is that if somebody wants to start a podcast in 2025, what are the first three steps someone should take if they want to launch a podcast this year specifically? Like, what's different between all the other years?
Yeah, coming back to the question, like, when you said that someone wants to start podcast, first think why you want to start a podcast. That is very important. So
Exactly.
once because now as everything comes as a fad, as a trend, and then people, so now because everyone is doing podcast and let's do it, it should not be that, but you should actually convince yourself why. Maybe write in a 4 sheet, very simple techniques I'm telling, like, because let's be very practical, and there are so many other books, rule books, and many thing you can find it out in Google. But for me also, when I started, I just asked why podcast. Maybe I can also go as a panel speaker, I can go as a public speaker many places and do the same engineering concept. But why podcast, and what niche you want to do, or no, not only niche, on what subject you want to do, be very clear on that. Maybe you will not get the answer. For me also, when I started this podcast, it was not the re-engineering, it was, I believe it was MSN, so which is like my strategy network. I thought that, okay, by my initials, which is Madhusmita Nayak, I thought I would start MSN, which is my strategy network podcast, where I will bring strategists all across the world, and we will talk about strategies. But believe me, once I did 3 4 session, I was not feeling like, okay, this is something which I'm feeling happy, or maybe I thought that many people are doing that, and it was not aligned. Okay, it's my profession, but somehow I was feeling that gap. Maybe that storytelling, narrating, and all was not coming. But when I started doing this reengineering podcast, and I got guests who told their previous past profession and how they came up to the conclusion, or how they chose that this is not what is their calling is, and they have transited from their profession to passion, I was literally moved. And I think when my audience started listening to this also, they liked it. And this is somehow, I felt so inspired by listening to them, like in the studio itself, listening to the stories. Like everyone say, follow your passion, follow your purpose, but finding your passion and finding your purpose is the biggest and it's the most difficult thing.
Honestly, I agree 100%. Sometimes even, I mean, I know I'm still quite young to say this, but sometimes I feel like I have found what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I'm not gonna lie, so many times I sit by myself and I say, would I really want to still be doing this in 5 years? And that's why a very important point you rose here, which is speaking about you need to know your why. Not just, I think, with you starting a podcast, but with you even going with your everyday to day job. You have to know, why are you working this job? Is it like aligning with your long-term goals or no? Because if you don't have a strong why, you're always gonna have a shaky foundation. So the thing is, a lot of of people miss the why. They just care about, okay, the how, what is the tool, what is the approach, but they don't really ask themselves why.
True. Even
Exactly.
I don't think, like, when I started also, my objective was like, let's do first 10 recordings. That's it. And then somebody somewhere in the Instagram I saw, I think by Rima Mahajan, she said that do first 20 episodes and you will be on track. So then I raised my bar, I said target bar, and I said that let me record my first 20 guests. And by doing all this, maybe I have already started, and I'm doing now maybe the 50th recording, and I have interviewed more than 65 guests. And believe me, more every day when I sit in front, like every episode when I sit in front of my guest and I go through their life story and I see their journey, maybe I have re-engineered many times, which might be I'm not aware of it, but I think I have re-engineered my perspective on how I look into my life now.
That's actually a very beautiful quote over there. And speaking of your first episodes, you started like without any fancy gear or like even a huge team. So what do people need to begin with? Because so many people have this limitation of we need a big team, we need a big budget, we need to do this, we need to do that, and then they never start. So what is going to be like your advice for them on how to begin?
I think when I came to Dubai, I remember I went to assessment to do an assessment, quality award assessment, and my team leader that time, I still remember his quote. I asked, like, I don't know how I will be doing this assessment because I don't have any experience and I'm the new one, and suddenly you have been giving me the deputy team leader role. So how to do it? And for unfortunately, he also fell sick on the day of assessment, and I had to go and do this assessment along with the other team members. And he told me, Madhu, there is nothing to fear, just you dive in. Even though you don't know swimming, you just dive in, then you will learn. Anything that you don't know, you start doing it, you will fail, but you will learn in the process. I think 2008 till now, it is to 2025, I think that particular line has still been there in my head. Anything new I start, I think that okay, let me do it and learn. So I it's not only on the podcast, in all aspects of my life, in changing my career also, I have done job in my 16 years of corporate strategy and corporate performance experience. And also before that, I was into business development and core hardcore sales I was doing, and I've changed more than 5 to 6 industries. So it's very difficult to change industry, to learn, but believe me, that's the beauty. You learn the best out of all and you implement also the best out of all. I feel whoever is thinking to start something, don't think about budget. Just have a good idea to start off with. And then slowly and progressively, you just start thinking how to enhance it. Similarly, when I just started, sat in front of the camera and lights with no experience, and my first guest was there with me. May I have fumbled, I don't know the array of questions or the flow of questions to be asked, but I think I started enjoying doing this, and every day I go, still I get nervous before interviewing, but main thing is like I devote a lot of time in researching my guest and understanding them and making a very very genuine effort to know my guest before I sit and discuss with them. So I meet them, I call them, I take their profile, and also me, my team do a lot of research, like that includes you, and then to make them more genuine and more valuable, because somebody whom you are calling as a guest, you should value them by knowing who they are at least. And the greatest or the biggest achievement for me is beyond likes and all. Basically, what is important and what is success for me for every interview I do is like when guests acknowledge and post interview, they say that it's a lot of research work that has gone behind. And also, I see the twinkling eyes with a lot of pride, and it's achievement, and it's achievement for them. And they say that, okay, we never realized that we have done so much in our life. So bringing their memories and bringing their self achievement, what as a success story, it's a great thing.
And guys, actually, I work with Madhu personally. So the thing is, I do see how much effort she really puts into her guests, and I do see the support that they have for her after that, and how excited they are to see their episodes. Like, when is our episode coming out? And how happy do they feel being with her? Because genuinely, she makes them feel seen. And this is the thing that most of us lack. So the thing is, once a guest, even if it's probably like their first time meeting, they always speak like they're best friends. And this is the most beautiful thing I have seen with attending some studios with you. And it's just extremely beautiful. And I think if you're going to be a podcast host, focus more with connecting with your guest more than you just focusing on perfecting things. And honestly, some guests, they can be extremely understanding and they can understand you're nervous and they're just going to go with the flow and be supportive. But just try to connect with them. I think great thing you have left there.
Yeah, and also all guests, there are guests who are excellent public speakers, like they are one of their own kind, like a TEDx speaker and all that, like Engineer Suad or many guests. I don't want to name them. There are many guests like from ministry and all. And the same time, there are many who are not that well versed or we're not comfortable in speaking in English, but treating all of them equally and understanding them and giving same effort for each one of them makes you feel that okay, you value each and every one. That is also one thing. You must make a genuine attempt and you must be authentic about that, right? So make everyone feel valuable. And what is the best thing that I have experienced is like when guests come and along with them, their kids also join and their husbands also sometimes they come and join their wife and vice versa. So the feeling like, when I see the support behind the scene, that's the best thing. Like, so maybe people don't know what happens much behind the scene, but that is the real support that goes into the shoot.
And how important is actually having a strong like support system for you, if because I know you're working a full-time job at the same time you're running a business, so how important is having a healthy support system around you?
I think ecosystem is the one and only mantra for success. Because I am there in the studio because I have a very supportive family who is working for me behind. So my husband, my son, and my parents back in India, they all know like when I have what schedule. So all are informed. All we also follow a calendar. So they call me calendar girl in the home because for
Do you
every
know Mona Katan? Have you seen her calendar?
no, but maybe her is very, very cumbersome. But for me, I'm not that much, but at least I have weekly calendar. So
Mm.
where I manage like, okay, I don't complete it, like, I'm not effective that much, but at least everything is there in my calendar. And I make sure that I have a routine, including like, what will be cooked for the entire week. My son has a calendar of his own when he has to go for sports, and we are all well informed, and that is what is a very very important thing is like communication. You can handle many things, and for every single task, like it might sound funny, but for any additional task given to me, I always think like if Prime Minister of India can do so much and why I cannot manage this much. So that is the first question till date I ask myself for any new assignment comes, like he is handling so many tasks and I cannot handle this simple task, and then I challenge myself. And yes, so I give my effort, and sometimes it works out, sometimes I have failed many times, but I have learned also through these mistakes. Yeah.
And that's okay. This is actually a great mindset to keep also like a positive look. By the way, sometimes we didn't really fail because we weren't. There was a very nice quote I read somewhere, okay, that says, "What would you do if you knew that your success is after 30 failures? Wouldn't you want to fail faster?" So this has been my all-time favorite quote, like literally until now. Every time I'm so scared to do something, I just remember this quote. I'm like, no, I want to fail faster because I knew that my success is going to come faster that way.
Yes,
So
exactly.
exactly. And actually, yes, one thing I want to ask you is that you had a podcast platform and now you're shifting it to a storytelling platform. Why is that?
See, when I started, as I said, a continuous improvement is my own thing. I just don't do things for just sake of doing it. And I have a tendency, because it's my profession as a business excellence and strategy
Mm.
specialist or being in strategy strategy for last 16 years, we always think about what next and what you have done to look back and how what better we can do and what is that was missing that could have done better. So in this process, when I did for 9 months through podcast, I could see that okay, it's not about only podcast. I did documentaries also on breast cancer and on the UAE National Day. But what I learned is like there are beautiful stories across the globe, but only
Absolutely.
because of the geographical presence, they're not able to be present in UAE. I was not able to capture their stories. So I thought, why not? Like distance presence should not be a stoppage. So that's the reason I thought of coming up with the storytelling platform. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter your language, nothing should be a barrier. It's only that we need an authentic story that can inspire others. That's it. So that is the objective, that is the goal, and we will make sure that in some other way or other it is coming in our platform where people can see, people can read, people can listen, and even one person getting inspired, more than enough. But I think it should be going global. So the main objective of storytelling was going global and capturing stories outside UAE and making beautiful collaborations with different NGOs, different communities, storytelling platforms, publishers, and all who will make this real stories to reach out to the right audience.
Absolutely. And if you actually want to be featured on the Re-Engineered Club, you have an inspiring story and you want to share, we're going to be leaving Mado's details and the Re-Engineered Club details where you can sign up and get featured down below in the description.
Yeah, so basically, this will be a user generated crowdsourcing storytelling platform. You have a story, we have the platform, we will make sure that your story is reaching to masses.
Absolutely. And also, I know that you're creating a few verticals within your storytelling platform. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that and how to set them up for someone who wants to get started with the same field?
Yeah, so basically, we'll follow with the same podcast platform, which will continue as is, like how it got started in 2024. The two other streams that we are coming about with re-engineered echoes, where we will be having different stories, where we will be having different audio visuals played for that, are different kind of graphic designs and whatever to make there. Even though you are not there, if you put your give your story, we will shortlist, we will scan through the authenticity and few checklist kind of thing, screening kind of thing, and then we will make it in more beautiful way of presentation, and we'll make it in different languages if possible, and put it in our website where people can visit our website and go through your story. Third is through documentaries or through the ebook, so where we will be writing your stories in terms of blogging, and then once maybe in December, like annually, what we thought that we will launch it as an ebook where we will self-publish it, and we will make sure that all the good stories are getting into a book format, digital book format, and it will be circulated across, so that we'll make sure that your story is been heard and people are reading your stories and reaching out to masses.
Awesome. I'm really wishing you best of luck. And I know for a fact we're going to make it happen. So, let's go.
Thank you. We definitely will make it happen. And we, as a team, we really are very, very passionate about whatever projects we take it. And basically, this platform will be having more intention of having collaborations where people are doing wonderful, like women NGOs, women groups, subgroups, youth, and sustainability. So many there are forums, working groups, and doing and entrepreneurs and VCs, investors. They're having beautiful, beautiful communities, sub communities who are really doing great things. And we really want such stories to come to our platform.
Absolutely, absolutely. And actually, now, if somebody already has a podcast platform and what they want to do is that they want to turn it into a scalable platform, not just necessarily within storytelling, but overall, they just want to scale from there, what advice do you have for them?
When you talk about scalability, I must say, like podcast itself, like there are different categories where you can start and how you want to be. Like when we talk about podcasts, like you can also start with a very simple setup at home itself and start your podcast. And also at the same time, you can make it very expensive affair by getting into studio and having Netflix camera and all that. Scalability is also relatable here, very relatable definition and on what you do. But what I see that the scalability aspect of podcast is like, okay, beyond podcast, what next is having more kind of collaborations with the and getting into different partnerships with different brands, which actually resonates your podcast niche or podcast theme, what you are. So once you get into stories, you can scale that to brands. Then once you capture individuals, you can get into corporations, into communities, and this is how one way of scalability can be done, where you can see the collaborations more effective and getting not results quicker, but making more resonative. But on how on earning money and monetizing it, I'm not the expert, and basically I have also not yet started. So I think monetizing it is the second thing, but make your brand more visible and make it very clear what your message is. That is very important, and you can have more of collaborations, as I mentioned, to make it more wider reach and make it more effective.
Absolutely. And actually, speaking of collaborations, what makes a guest story powerful enough to move people watching?
See, there are two contexts to that. It's like when you say guest story to be more powerful, is like there are three things. Is your niche or is your theme relatable? It is
Mm.
more resonated by your audience. Like, suppose if I'm doing something on re-engineering and tomorrow I start talking about fashion, right, or something, or politics, how people will relate it, right? So it is little bit out of context, but you can make every subject or every guest relatable and make it in your own theme, whatever you have designed. So everyone has a story, believe me. Like, if you're an influencer, you are a politician, you are a sustainable expert, you have a thought leader, everyone has a story to tell. Every story is unique, everyone's story is unique. But yeah, sometimes someone's story is more interesting, they are bigger achiever, they have more milestones they have achieved, but that doesn't mean that. So it's a win-win game for both the host and the guest. So
Again,
it's a win effort for both of them. Both of them have to make sure that who is getting the best story out of someone in the studio, or when they're interviewing it. So this is the act of storytelling, where you bring the genuinity, the authenticity, and asking good questions or relevant questions on what your podcast is about.
and speaking of like interviewing and having a good story, what would you usually do? Like, do you have a script that you strictly follow, or do you sometimes just let the story unfold naturally as it goes?
I think I follow 90-10 percentage, right? 10 percentage is like I'm prepared for the interview by seeing the array of questions that I need to ask and also sending the questions to them. But it is, I never follow a particular script for any of my interviews, because it depends on the answers and I go with the flow. So this is what it makes it natural, and it makes one answer leads to the next question. But keeping in mind that, okay, this is something, the theme that it should come across. So yes, 10%, but 90% of the preparedness before gives that 10% natural flow during the interviews, actually, in when we are running through the guest. So that makes it more natural. And I must say that, okay, I have improved a lot during the process on interviewing guests. And because interviewing and asking questions is also the biggest art, like, which I learned. And also one mistake I did during one of the interview is like I was interrupting her so much that she got annoyed, and I could make out that, okay, I was just making her uncomfortable. Usually when you are in front of the camera, I'm just telling the initial recordings which I did, so which was one of the learning, like, when someone is sharing, they're equally, so you are passionate about asking questions, they're equally passionate in sharing their answers, right, and sharing their experience. So
Exactly.
podcasting is more about listening, and it's more about guest, very less about you. So
True.
that is one mantra that I have learned during that. It's less of asking and bombarding questions, more about listening to the guest and be mindful in when they are talking and picking that thing so that it looks very natural on the leading questions. You can have your script for reference, and you can have the questions for preparedness, but actually what follows is like good listening during the interview. So it is more about listening and and framing questions from the answers and making it more relatable to have a seamless flow and making a good story.
Awesome. And actually, from your experience, what do you think is the most thing that captures audience attention? Or let's say, even from your perspective, when you are seeing some content online about an amazing story or some inspiring person who's coming on board in an interview, what usually hooks you to watch this interview or to listen to that podcast?
I think something which I am going through my day to day struggle, or it is something that is relatable to my day to day life, that creates a curiosity in mind to listen to that podcast more. Like, for example, when Jay Shetty mentioned that there are different ways of finding purpose, and one of them, so what is the way of finding out your purpose? So that was a podcast of maybe 1 hour, 15 minutes. But the first line was, it's difficult to find purpose as simple as it looks like, right? So this is what maybe I was looking about. The question, it's how to find out purpose, right? Or simple things like, how to negotiate in day to day life, how to negotiate with your child, how to negotiate with your husband, how to negotiate in your office in day to day conversation. So these are the topics which you can easily relate and you find struggle in daily challenges, right? So if I find it more relatable in my day to day activities, that is the hook point for me to go through the podcast. Same like Mel Robbins, let them, right? So we always ask them, let them theory that she speaks about that. So it's like, it's okay, let them theory has become so much practicable, and you can apply in your life so much to make yourself feel better rather than worrying about what others are thinking.
All right. So the thing is, I've seen the let them theory for a while right now on the internet, on LinkedIn, specifically from you. You're sharing it a lot. So what is one takeaway you have from this book?
There are many things actually that I love that book, and I think in a stretch of 3 days I have completed the entire book. It was so beautiful, written by Mel Robbins, and I was relating so much to that. Like, she said that one quote that she said, I have done many things in life which I was never trained to do it, and none of them are relatable. And she started doing all this once she crossed 45. And that is one thing, like, the concept of re-engineering itself, it was so relatable. Like, there is no age, defined age line, like when you should start doing something new, something that is adding value, or something that you like to do, has no age limit. So that is one thing which I've taken, what that she has written in her book. Second thing is like the push theory, like counting 5 to 1 backwards. So something that you're resisting to do it, you just start counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up and do it.
Yes,
So
I love that.
that is the practice that I do it. I'm such a lazy girl, like, getting up in the morning and just writing, doing this manifestation thing, and going for walk, and going for to meet my trainer and all that. But right now, I just simply do that practice: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I do it with my son together. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we both get up together, like, in a single shot. So that is something like a push theory, which really works. And she said that when she was completely lost in everything, she started using that principle and started doing things. And look at her. Now everyone is talking about let them theory, which is one of the best seller of 2024.
Exactly. And actually, that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 theory does really work because I have realized, even with me, like if I have to get up and go to the gym, it's not about, oh, I have to get up, I have to go to the gym and like I have to work out. It's not this that's keeping me down and keeping me from getting up and getting dressed. It's actually getting dressed. I have realized that at least 100%, if I get up and get dressed for the gym, I am going to go to the gym. So I started to tell my mind something like, Sundus, I don't say like, Sundus, get up and go to the gym. I'm like, Sundus, get up and get dressed. So the thing is, once I just reach this level, I automatically am able to put off my shoes and then go to the gym. So this is also another way where you think about it. You don't have to think that you have to achieve like, I have to work this many hours, I have to hire this many people, I have to reach to $1 million. No, you can just start simple. I have to learn the skill. I have to hire this one person. Taking it step by step sometimes makes it even easier for you, to get up and feel like, yeah, you have the power to do it.
Exactly. And that is what we also study, right? Continuous improvement. And and you should enjoy the journey, not thinking about what is the destination or when you are going to reach the destination. Definitely, you will reach the destination one day. Then, once you reach the destination, you will definitely push your destination to the next mark. But the thing is that you should enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. Right now, everything goes so fast in every sphere, like fast results, fast money, easy money. There are so many hacks and tricks of getting everything. I think people have stopped enjoying the process. But right now, I feel like be how much ever you work hard and struggle to give, okay, quick results without knowing the process, be whatever you have done, you will never achieve that. And I have witnessed that. Everything has a time. Once you practice, then only it makes it perfect. Yeah.
100%. All right, so our next segment is actually a fun segment. It's a game that's made specially for you. So, are you ready?
Yeah, for sure.
So, Mado, for this game, we're going to be basically throwing at you a random podcast scenario. And basically, it's going to be like a title or a guest, and you will have to, in a quick 30 to 60 seconds, give us a podcast intro or basically a story hook on the spot.
Okay.
So, your guest is a former prisoner turned CEO. What's your first line to hook the audience?
It's a tough one because I don't know whether I can, but yes, I might say that welcome to the season two of the re-engineering phase, behind the bars to the hello everyone, welcome to the re-engineered podcast. Today we have a very special guest who have re-engineered his life from behind the birds, and now he is setting birds with new deadlines and targets and creating massive influence in the market.
Okay, nice one. Great. All right, so good job with that. Now, the next
Thank
point we
you.
have now, your podcast is called Second Chances. How do you open episode one?
Welcome to the first episode of the Reengineered podcast, where we are bringing lives of second chances, which are much better and beautiful. But before we get into second chance, let's interview our first guest in season one.
Okay, no, this one is smooth. Okay, I love that. Your third example is going to be you are interviewing a refugee turned artist. Build your first three questions.
First thing will be I'll be asking definitely how he has taken his daily life or his observations in day to day life and has acknowledged that or expressed that in his or her art. This is so important because you put things in art what you go through. So, how he has taken his daily struggles, daily observations as a refugee and has translated them into art. And second will be how he will be communicating to all the refugees a ray of hope through his art,
Okay.
because he can tell his own story to many refugees out there that whatever, it doesn't matter today, but definitely there is a ray of hope, and that is how we will call it as a re-engineered hope. Everything is happening today and will happen tomorrow because there is a hope. Third thing will be I can ask him like if he want to express something, like what his the best and the worst days, maybe not worst days but the best days in those hardships, what it would be and how he will capture that.
No, honestly, amazing questions. Like amazing choice of questions. Really, like we have to give you a clap with that. This is really great. Fourth example we have is that I want you to create a title plus a one-liner description for a podcast about mental health for Gen Z.
They are the most talented ones, and believe me, I cannot match their creativity. But and that to mental health, they create mental situations for us, like because they are so talented and at par with the technology and everything. You cannot argue with them. I have I think, a alpha kid, and not alpha kid. Maybe he is also 13, so he might be in Gen Z too. I don't
Yeah,
know,
Gen Z
but
kind of, yes.
yeah, so he argues and he has a reason for everything. So yeah, for mental health, maybe I can say that the title or the niche, because you will be talking about mental health, right?
Yes, so basically we want like an episode that has a good title. And how would you describe it in like one line?
So the title, I'll go with the title first, and maybe then I can declare the title of the episode itself. So the title will be the one liner will be healings, right? So he, instead of G, I will be writing Z. That will be standing healings, healing with Zen Z.
Okay, this is actually a very creative name. Okay, I have to really give it out. I'm very impressed how you came with these on the spot. Like, this is how you tell this person is like an experienced host, and at the same time, they do have the talent genuinely for asking good questions. Because if you would ask me this, I would be like, I have to admit it, low key, I don't have a personality after ChatGPT came out. So the thing is, I think this is the one thing Gen Z can all proudly admit. Like, we go now to ChatGPT for everything, but this is the beautiful part. And I think this is where the difference is. Like, I have to personally add to your point right now is that what I have noticed with working with people who are at Gen Z and then people who are the generation just before us is that the generation before us, they seem to be more patient. And in the same time, because they didn't have the limitations of being an iPad kid like how we were to some extent. I mean, I was a Nokia kid as well, but you guys still maintain that big part of creativity in your minds. And this is why, like, if you would ask somebody our age, yes, true, we are very big advocates on mental health. In the same time, we do stand our grounds. We're stubborn, as you said. We're very passionate and we love to do many things at the same time. But in the end of the day, the patience part and along with the creativity part, I still do see it a lot with the generation that was just right before us. So, no, really, like, clap for that as well.
Thank you. And I think that is how we are there to bridge the gap. And I think what we have to learn also the technology, the AI part, and that is very, very much important for not getting redundant and be so the difference is the communication. So how we say and how they understand. So once the communication channel becomes understandable and we start communicating to each other and understand each other, that's how we will start bridging the gap in understanding. So sometimes I have to get down to my son's way of understanding things. And so I make an attempt to know more how he talks. So the code words that they use, like, YOLO, FOMO, and all those things, GOAT, and everything. So
Yeah.
this kind of acronyms we have never formed, and especially when I write anything or I tell to my team, like we don't understand acronyms. You have to be very, very crystal clear in what you want to communicate.
Yes.
But in explaining him, I have to understand in what way he is speaking, and then only I can able to translate or tell my emotions or tell my message to him clearly. The same way also Gen Z and also in our previous, so that is an effort and patience and having consistent communication, and that emotional bond is something which is very, very much missing actually. So
Hmm.
most of the time they are becoming so much into technology and instruments and iPads and overflooded with information. You have to make a genuine effort to make this bonding very, very emotional and meaningful.
True. No, I agree with you 100%. And honestly, thank you so much for all the beautiful and informative tips you have shared with us today. And for anyone who is interested on being a part of the Re-Engineered Club or they have an inspiring story that they would like to share, we're going to be leaving all of their details down in the description. Thank you so, so much, Mado. And if you want to get in contact with Mado, also her details are going to be down below.
Thank you so much, Sandos, and for such beautiful questions. And thank you for being part of the team. We have a mission and we do have a vision, and our mission is very clear on what we want to achieve. And definitely, Re-Engineered Podcast is going global. So thank you so much for all the support and love that you have extended. And good luck to you, Sandos, too. You are doing great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. This is an honor to me, Mado. All right. Take care. Goodbye.